KFSR 90.7 FM, and CMAC, Comcast 93 and AT&T 99 present the Central Valley Ledger, formerly San Joaquin Spotlight. Tune in to 90.7 FM or Comcast 93 and AT&T 99. I'm your host, Sevag Tateosian. Welcome to the Central Valley Ledger, formerly San Joaquin Spotlight. And our guests this week are here to talk about a school, a private school in Fresno County, in Fresno, Clovis area, the Armenian Community School. But I forgot to mention that it's the Charlie Keyan Armenian Community School. Marshall, thank you for coming.
Thanks for having us.
And Karen, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having us.
And you know, I invite you back every year or so to talk about the latest because, you know, watching the school grow is exciting for me because I've seen now more and more of my friends take their kids there. But, you know, I'm not going to brag about your school. I'm going to let you do the bragging. So
Sure.
Both of you are board members.
Correct.
Let's start with you, Marshall. Talk a little bit about your background.
I'm born and raised in Fresno. I'm an attorney. I'm a financial advisor. I've been on the board, finishing up my fourth year now. Third year as the chairman. I'm involved with the Knights of Vartan. I write for the Fresno Bee a couple times a year on Armenian issues, and so it's good to be part of the school and part of a great organization.
Karen, let's talk a little bit about your background.
I'm finishing up my first year on the board with the school, and my background is in education. In my professional life, I was also born and raised in Fresno, attended Fresno State, and the last time I was involved with an Armenian organization was when I was at Fresno State. So I felt this was a great organization to become active again.
Now, I went last year to the open house, and I saw that the students that were coming to tour were not all Armenian. So I think there's a misconception out there that just because it's called the Armenian school, the Charlie Keyan Armenian School, that it's somehow only all Armenian. And I want one of you to clarify that.
I think we probably both can, but we're a community school. We are the Armenian Community School, but our classroom instruction is all in English. It's been that way forever. We have students who are not Armenian. We have teachers who are not Armenian. The only different aspect of our school versus other schools is that there is our foreign language component is Armenian. There's Armenian history and culture. But the rest of the school is all the basic reading and writing and arithmetic that you would see in a basic school. But one of the biggest misconceptions, even for people that are Armenian, who have been around for decades in Fresno, who know about our school, still sometimes think that the language is done, the instruction is done in Armenian. And that's not the case at all.
Well, yeah, and it's English, because whenever I've had you on the program, we've clarified also that, you know, the curriculum is actually the same curriculum that they would be getting in other schools. Karen, talk about that.
Absolutely. We follow the California Department of Education core curriculum list that every public school, private school, and charter school in California follows. So all of the curriculum we use is state adopted and approved, delivered in English, except for the foreign language component, which is in Armenian. Also, it's really important to note that our school is accredited through the WASC Accreditation Association, which accredits all public and private schools in the Western United States from kindergarten all the way through college.
We were talking a little bit off camera, Karen, and actually how you came on the board was very interesting. Talk about how you ended up on the board of the community school.
Well, I had not been involved in Armenian organizations since my college days, and my career took me into education. I've spent over 20 years as an educator, and like you, some of my friends had their children at the school, and I would be asked questions about education, curriculum, instructions, and different things. And eventually, last year, a few parents recruited me to run for the board. A few years ago, I had actually met Principal Czar, and we discussed instructional strategies, areas where teachers needed some professional development or some skill training. And I would come on board maybe once a quarter and do some after-school trainings, professional learnings for the teachers, mostly around language arts.
And both of you could probably answer this, so it doesn't matter to me who answers, but the education that they're getting at the Armenian Community School, is it equivalent to what's out there at the public schools? Because there might be this misconception that maybe somehow the education they're getting at the Armenian Community School is not up to par. I heard that the other day and I thought, I'm going to use that. And this was a perfect opportunity. So up to par.
Sure. You know, at the end of the day, parents send their kids to the school to learn. There's a lot more involved than just learning the basics. Our test scores are consistently very high. Our first graders test at the second grade level. Our sixth graders test all the way through the ninth grade level. And so these kids are certainly learning what they need to learn to develop themselves as growing up. Along with the basics that they learn skills and disciplines that stay with them throughout their life. Last year we graduated, I think, 10, maybe 12 students, and half of those kids this year as seventh graders are honor roll students. So they're learning a lot at our school. If you want to look at just the basics of what they're learning, the test scores show that considerably.
And so honor roll, I'm glad you brought that up. Now they went to another school, in a public school or somewhere else, right? Talk about after the Armenian Community School, what's next? And obviously they're doing well if you're saying that they're on an honor roll.
Right, a lot of the kids go off to public school, maybe another private school, but they all do well. And if you know adults today that went to the Armenian school as kids, you see that they're pretty sharp, pretty bright, pretty successful, very respectable adults. We don't just teach the basic reading and writing and arithmetic, but we're helping to develop these children so that when they can become adults, become productive members of society, both locally and on a global scene. We don't just look at ourselves as a stop-off point between 8 a.m. and 3 p.m. for parents to send their kids. They come to that school because they know they're going to get the basics. The test scores show that every year. But they also know that those kids, when they grow up, are going to be not only educated and intelligent, they're going to be articulate, they're going to be confident, they're going to be respectful and respectable members of society. And that's what we do at our school.
Talk about class sizes. I mean, I know, Karen, with your background in education, class sizes are important. How are class sizes at the Armenian Community School, and is there that teacher and student interaction?
I think that's the number one reason that a parent should send their child to that school is the small class size instruction. Public school used to have a funding source where we kept our kindergarten through third grade classrooms at 20-1, and that went away about 5 years ago when we went through the economic downfall in public education. At the Armenian school, we have a commitment as a board to not allow any class over 20 students, and most of ours are running somewhere between 10, 12, 15 students, with the exception of our pre-K. Our pre-K, both of our pre-K classrooms are maxed out at 20.
I don't want to hear that because I have, both of you know, I have kids coming up the pipeline.
Yes,
There's a waiting list. There's a waiting list, and
Yes,
you
we
can fill your
do.
name on it.
So I didn't mean to interrupt, but I had to throw it in there.
It's okay, but everyone knows that when you have a lower student to teacher ratio or student to adult ratio in a classroom, you get more individualized help and instruction, and that's absolutely what our kids get.
Is there evaluation process? I mean, how do we know that I know because I know the parents there and they've said great things, but for someone who has not been involved or knowledgeable about the Armenian Community School, the Charlie Keyan Armenian School, is there an evaluation process? I mean, is the administration reviewing?
Yeah, so Principal Czar has each of her teachers do a model lesson once a month, and she looks at all content areas such as English, math, social studies, science. I think she just evaluated PE last month from all the teachers. All of our teachers follow the California standards for each grade level, and our teachers are evaluated on the California standards for the teaching profession, which all teachers in public education are evaluated on.
We've talked about Principal Czar a couple of times. Principal Czar Moushigian.
Yes.
She's been on this program before, and she herself comes from a background of education, right?
Right. She taught kindergarten almost 40 years, I would say, 30, 40 years for the Fresno Unified. So she really brings a keen understanding of early childhood development. She spends time in the pre-K and kindergarten classes to make sure that those kids are developing properly. She has a very strong eye for this. She doesn't just sit in her office doing principal work. She's very much involved with the teachers and the students. And when you have a school as small as ours, that attention is very much a possibility.
Talk about the teachers. We've mentioned them a couple of times, but so if I were to review or look at the teachers at the community school and compare them to public school teachers, are they equivalent?
Absolutely. All of our teachers are credentialed teachers, currently credentialed teachers, or going through a credential program. In a public school, they would call those interns that are going through a credential program. Additionally, our preschool teachers are all NIAC certified, which is the National Association of Early and Young Children Education, and they have to go through a licensure and certification to teach preschool, and then they have to do continuing hours every year, which all of our staff and teachers do.
One thing that has been cut in the public education program are the things like art and music and exercise and sports and stuff. So talk about a couple of these things. We actually have time to talk about several of these things that are going on at the school that may not be going on in public education.
Well, when someone asks, why would someone want to send their kids to our school? One of the reasons is that as programs are getting cut left and right in the public school system, we have those programs and we're enhancing them. And I know, Keyan, you can talk about this quite a bit, but with arts, we have fencing, gardening, 3D printing, our choral programs, our sports programs. We're very involved in that type of those activities.
So if my child is going to the Armenian community school, not only are they getting the education, but there's some hands-on work. Talk about that.
Absolutely. The art program in particular, the board and the school has made a commitment. We have an additional art teacher that we fund that comes in and teaches all grade levels, not only art as an activity, but they teach art history, they teach art techniques, and they work with our classroom teachers so that they can collaboratively build in art as a way of expression for students. I've seen some of the teachers expressing social studies content through drama. I've seen a lot of the teachers expressing their science through a building or a model that they collaborated with the art teacher on how to create that. So there's a lot of integration of arts in all of our curriculum, and our art teacher, Teacher Vartui, she is just one of the favorites of all the kids. They love their weekly instruction with her.
And I know that the parents are involved, because one of the things that I look for, as I'm a new parent, one of the things I look for is, are the parents engaged? What are the parents doing? I mean, is this a school where I can see that the kids are learning from the parents and the parents are involved? And I've noticed that the Armenian Community School has a lot of parent involvement. Talk a little bit about that.
Sure. Parents are required to participate. There's a minimum requirement, and that's standard throughout all the private schools in the area. 30 hours a year, which is basically 1 hour per week, and either parent can help out, grandparents can help out.
That's not a lot, I don't mean to interrupt you, but
You're
30
right.
hours, I mean, I could do that in a week or 2 weeks, and then I'm done for the year.
Right, and we do have a lot of parents that get it done in no time at all, and those parents keep volunteering and volunteering and volunteering. Others are, due to outside involvement, work and such, aren't as involved. All parents are involved, but some certainly more than others. And there's studies that have shown just how important it is for a student to have their parents involved at the school.
Absolutely. That connectedness of having your teachers and your parents and the entire staff connected to your family really is shown and proven that that's why kids excel, or that's why kids engage and participate so much in school. In a public school, I can tell you there are times where I've never seen a parent of children I have taught. And that's not going to happen at our school. Our parents know our teachers know our parents, to the extent that they almost all have each other's cell phone numbers, so that there's never anything that happens at the school that's a surprise to parents, and there's never anything that the teachers find out as a surprise as why a kid might not be giving their best efforts one day.
Is the school a nonprofit? I mean, if I make a donation to the school, is that tax deductible?
We're a 501c3, so ask your accountant to the extent that it can be deducted, but generally,
That's
yes.
a lawyer answer, by the way. That's an answer that a lawyer would give you. Ask your accountant.
Yeah.
But it is a 501c3, so if I decide to make a check to the school, it's
Certainly.
a 501c3.
Certainly, and along that line, we rely to a certain extent on participation from the community. Our tuition income alone isn't quite enough to cover our expenses, but we do require, this is a community school, and so when the community participates, we all do better.
A couple of things you brought up that I'm going to talk about. Number one, there's some fundraisers that come up. One is a crab feed that's huge, and then one is a car show. So talk a little bit about some of these events.
Well, we could do a whole show on the crab feed alone.
Yes.
You know, the crab feed for our school is no longer just an Armenian school function. This is a Fresno happening now. The last 2 years, Ani Eliasson and Diane Masurlian have been the co-chairs. They took over from Sevag Tateosian, who for 11 years, every year raised the bar and made this an incredible fundraiser for us. It's always at Holy Trinity Armenian Church downtown. It's always in February, so mark your calendars. It always sells out.
Always sells out.
400 people. It is a huge fundraiser, and I tell you, the last few years, it's brought in about $35,000 for us. This year was $48,000 because people really understand that, first of all, it's a fun event, but second of all, they know that their funds are going to a very, very good cause. We have a lot of fun with this crab feed. It's one of our favorite events. Karen, of course, was on the committee as well, working on that, and it's a great event. We do have our car shows the last year, and I think 4 years ago, one of our community members, a big supporter of our school, Ron and Barbara Mortanian, had pledged to work with our school for 4 years to raise $100,000 over that time period. And every year they did just a little bit more than $25,000. So we have had a couple car shows the past few years bringing in all kinds of celebrities from the 1950s and 60s, and that's always a lot of fun. Whether it's going to continue as far as a car show, it remains to be seen, but we've certainly have had a lot of success with the car shows the last couple of years.
And it seems like there's more, I don't want to say notoriety, but there's more maybe public awareness of the school because, you know, I saw in the Bee that it got 2 thumbs up.
Right, for the crab feed.
You know, and I'd never seen that before. And then I got something at home that was like a newspaper about the school. So, I mean, is that something that's going to continue?
Go ahead.
The newspaper is actually school funded, and we use some of our grant money to do that. We've committed to publishing that newspaper 3 times a year, and it is talks about happenings in the school, what our kids are doing out in the community, and of course any of our fundraising events coming up.
And you know, you talk about how you're seeing more notoriety of the school. You see the school out there in the public more often. That's not by accident, that's by design, because we realize that the school is not just a place where you go to learn. We see this as well as a business, because it is. It requires money, and it requires students, and it requires people to get rid of the misconceptions that they've had for many years to understand what our school is about. And we do that through outreach, whether it's billboards around town, our newspaper, which goes out 3 times a year. That newspaper, keep in mind, is not just a means of delivering news and information about our school. It's a marketing and PR tool for us, because we want people to know that, 1, we exist, and 2, that we have an incredibly high standard of education for our school. So the fact that you're seeing, you and your viewing public sees us more, is because we're making a concerted effort to get our name out there and our reputation out there and what we stand for.
The school is not free, there's tuition, so I wanted to let our audience members know about that, but talk about, don't go into detail about what it costs, but talk about if it's comparable to other private schools.
So our preschool programs are actually a little less annually.
I like to hear about that.
Than most preschools in town. You know, if you look at some of the state-funded or public-funded preschools in town, ours is just a little bit less than theirs when you divide it up by 12 months. And even our private from TK to 6th grade is a little less than most of the private schools in town. We know we could charge a little bit more, but I think we've decided to keep it affordable for families because we want to encourage people to come. It's not a profit-making business, it's a sustaining business.
There's a building, there's something going on with a building. I don't know if the construction has started or in somewhere, but one of you can educate us about that.
Sure. A couple years ago, well, we've always wanted to, have our own land, our own facility. Back 2007, we were given money by Charlie Keyan, and we were able to purchase our land. It currently has portable classrooms on it, but don't let that fool any of your viewing public, because when you go inside these classrooms, the technology is outstanding. Mm-hmm. But we can't be in portable classrooms forever. So a couple years ago, a member of the community passed away, left us quite a bit of money. It's about 20% on our path toward getting enough to actually build. We're working with one of our board members, who's an architect, is working on the master plan for the school, very detailed regarding location of storage cabinets and how much you would need given a certain number of students. It's not just 4 walls and a roof. There's a lot of detail that goes into this, a lot of time that goes into this. You can't build and tear down and build back up again. You got to get it right the first time. And so we're doing a lot of effort on the front end to make sure that what we do is a solid building. Along that line, like I said, we're about 20% of the way for our funding. This is a community school, and we rely on the community to continue assisting us to help us reach our full potential, which is to have a building so that we can have these kids in permanent classrooms.
Talk about the community activism of the students. I mean, I've seen the students out at church functions. I've seen them out at genocide commemorations. I mean,
Sure.
it's not like they're staying put. I mean, I've seen them out there and they sing songs.
Yeah, in Armenian.
And we have weekly choral instruction. We have people that come in and teach all of our kids from pre-K to 6th grade. Our kids are out there in the community. They go Christmas caroling to old folks' homes. So we really love to showcase our kids, but not just with the music. Our kids also get band weekly from kindergarten up. So that is something that's a little bit unique with our school, is music instrument doesn't start at 4th grade. We started down at kindergarten. And then when Marshall said our kids sing in Armenian, a really important thing is our kids aren't just learning Armenian language. They're learning to read and write in Armenian also. By the time our kiddos leave 6th grade, they are biliterate kids. We see multi-paragraph essays from our 6th graders written all in Armenian. They stand up and give public speeches, 3 5-minute speeches, all in Armenian, written in Armenian and spoken in Armenian. So our kids truly come out biliterate, which is exceptional.
Their graduation speeches, their commencement speeches are always in Armenian, and talking about a well-rounded individual. Again, it's not just reading and writing and arithmetic. These kids are very well developed when they go forward.
So I understand the importance of sending your kids there, but if I'm non-Armenian, why would I send my children to the Armenian community school? Why would I care? Public school is free. I could easily say, you know what, we're going to the school down the street. What is it why would I be enticed to send my kids to the Charlie Keyan Armenian Community School?
What kind of child do you want to be as an adult part of society? Again, the test scores are great, and at the end of the day, a parent wants to make sure their children have learned. But beyond that, it is creating a well-rounded individual that can function beautifully in society. And we have that at our school. Again, you can talk about the test scores all day long, but at the end of the day, when those kids are graduating, they are fully confident, and you see that when they go on, like I talked about our 7th grade students from last year, on making honor roll. Very well-rounded kids.
And it's not just that confidence. I think from my background in public education, it's really that ability to communicate, collaborate, and make connections. And our kiddos are doing that from 5 years old on. They're not waiting to get to high school to learn that. A reason why you might want to send your kid there if you're non-Armenian, I would think the foreign language, personally. And it's not just learning to speak another language, and most people might say, well, why Armenian? It's a very small language.
I could just hear people saying,
I
have an answer to that.
But, you know, I'm going to steal Marshall's answer. Most of our kiddos are going to get Spanish or French in high school. It's a requirement to go on to college. You have to do that in high school. But we know as educators that if we are building those brain connections early with the foreign language, picking up the 3rd language and 4th language is so much easier. Why wait till your kid is 14, 15 to introduce them to a foreign language? At the Armenian school, you can start them at 3. and really build those connections in their brain.
And by the time they become in high school, it's almost as if they have to take a foreign language class. It's being crammed into them, whereas if they've had it since day one, they're picking up not just language skills, they're picking up learning skills, disciplines that they're going to carry with them the rest of their lives, so that when they do get to high school, picking up a third language and a fourth language is no big deal. But here in Fresno, Sevag, I say it kind of jokingly, because I'm a pretty proud Armenian, but this is Fresno, and if you're non-Armenian and you want to send your kids to our school, and they wonder why, I tell them, look, your kids are either going to work with or work for an Armenian someday. It wouldn't hurt to score some points now by knowing the history and the culture and some language. Again, they'll learn the French and Spanish in high school, but they get so much at such an early age when it's so important to give them a lot. Those brains are empty sponges when they're that young, and they have the ability to take in a lot, but they have to be guided and encouraged and nourished and nurtured, and that's what we do.
We are almost out of time on the program. Both of you are highly intelligent. I mean, you're answering the questions well. The rest of the board, what can parents expect from the rest of the board? I mean, are they also as engaging and as active? Briefly.
Well, certainly, talking about Keyan with her background in education, we've learned over the last few years that we need to have a diverse board that can cover certain topics, certain disciplines. Keyan with her education, we have one who's an architect, we have a CPA, we have somebody who's excellent in project management, someone who's good with technology. So our board covers a lot of areas, and we make sure that we have a board that's diverse.
Well, and it sounds like, the school is on its way to growing, so congratulations, you two, and thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you, Sevag.
Thank you for having us.
That's all for this edition of the Central Valley Ledger, formerly San Joaquin Spotlight. Thank you to our guests, Keyan and Marshall with the Charlie Keyan Armenian Community School of Fresno. Thank you to our volunteers who are in the studio now, making us sound and look good. We couldn't do this without them in the studio. And thank you for our audience members listening to KFSR 90.7 FM and watching on Comcast 93 and AT&T 99, the CMAC channels. We're here in the beautiful CMAC Fresno Clovis studios in downtown Fresno. Thank you for tuning in. Tune in next week to a new edition.
Thank you for watching the program. See you next time. Bye.